Hi, everybody. My name is Ursula O'Farrell, and I'm so happy that you've joined us on the first ever 2025 Quantum Soul Guidance Livestream Summit. We have so much to be grateful for as a first ever sharing of so many different ways from around the world and how we're taking the knowledge of our star families and our galactic heritage and working with the stars to help support our awareness of who we are, why we're here, and how best to go forward, working as a more quantum level team and embracing our own unique multi-dimensional selves. Okay, so I am pre-recording this in the event that something might happen because I am based here in California. And right now in the Los Angeles area of 2025 in January, we're having a catastrophic event of fire. And so we're just not sure how to hold space for this as we move into this new year, which has so many auspicious astrological points, but also how to bring in the galactic support during this incredibly horrific event, plus other things happening around the globe. So my whole focus has been to how to work and call in support when it's needed. My history has been working with the invisible realms, either as a mother to help support and guide my children, or as an artist where I felt like I was channeling information, channeling in images, even though I was a little shy about sharing some of the things that were coming through. And I wanted to give you insights into, if you were interested, how to engage more multidimensionally and know that you are not alone. It just requires a particular invitation and a thoughtfulness that comes from the heart. I've created a little slide presentation just to share a little bit about who I am and my journey with painting. Here we go. Let's see. So I want to welcome you to Painting with the Stars, igniting your creativity with galactic engagement. Here I've created a beautiful star Merkaba. It is a visual reminder for me that, again, I'm not alone, but to understand, well, who are my galactic ancestors? How do you find out? Many of us may have already tried to go to an Akashic record reader. The Akashic records, of course, hold each of our earthly lifetimes, but I kind of knew that there was another Akash or Akashic record system that would also show me where I had been in this universe. So when I saw Julia Balaz and the gift that Hector gave her of a calculator, I thought, wow, it is almost like looking at your soul records. When you take that moment of your physical incarnation, you look at where the stars were in connection with the planets, your north and natal nodes. So here I've just called out Lyra, the beautiful constellation with a gorgeous star named Vega, Alphard from Hydra, Hyadum the first within the constellation Hyades, Markab, the beautiful star sitting within the constellation known as Pegasus, Sirius A, which many of us know in the large dog Canis Major, is the brightest star that we see from Earth in the night sky, and also Bellatrix, that gorgeous and very noticeable Orion constellation, learning what this ancestral star has offered me in this lifetime. So I've placed a picture of myself at the age of probably 5 or 6 to remind me that the way to engage within the quantum experience is not through the mental adult ego world, but instead to drop down from the mind the 18 inches it takes to hit the heart chakra, the higher heart. Okay. And so I've placed the beautiful stars within a Merkaba, a solar light vehicle, Merkaba. Also, you'd recognize this sacred geometry as the Archangel Metatron. It's a Metatronic shape, of first the 6 around the 1, and then 6 points around the 6. So it's the 12 around the 1, calling in the number 13, which I hold as very much associated with the divine feminine. Okay, so if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the stars, I do have a YouTube channel called The Ascension Playground. And if you like the visual paintings, which I will tell you serve as healing transmitters, you can find my art at ursulafineart.com. But let's begin this fun romp with how do you ignite your creativity? And why is creativity so important in 2025? Well, let me just start by saying many of us perhaps listen to astrologer Pam Gregory. In some of her most recent astrological views for 2025, this idea of the power of creativity, this idea of co-creation, it really caught my heart. And I said, what is the antithesis of fear? For me, it's stepping into our God self, the divine incarnate within each of us. And the best way that I think that I can meet and greet the God within is through the power of creativity. And creativity in all its forms, as a gardener, as a poet, as a painter, as a creative mother, as just, I believe we were all born as, fragments of the greatest creator, God. So why wouldn't we, as a fractal of all that is, be enchanted with creation? But in our three-dimensional world, we sometimes have to say, well, I am creator, and we put ourselves in a box. I'm here to tell you, guess what? You can call in and invite galactic co-creation in whatever you choose to do. It's just fun to find out, well, who are my star families? Where have I been galactically? And who will help me basically have fun in the studio? So my next slide, let's see. Here's a painting I created in 2015, almost 10 years ago. And it's an image I kept painting over and over in both small and very large scales. Something had landed in my heart I was at a class with Randy Masters. He's a wonderful, unique soul. And he had a class where I was learning about sacred geometry and numerology. And I felt a poke at the back of my heart. I turned around and I saw the structure of an image where there were 2 pentagons abutted. So there's 2 5s, the penta, but being abutted and sharing the one line, they're forming a 6-pointed shape for the hexa. So what we're seeing is a 6-5 ratio of the pentahexa. That's just geometry language. What it's really telling me is, remember where you've been, and here is something that wants to come through. So what came up in my remembering of where I have been on Earth was this beautiful city called Abydos in Egypt. And so Abydos, Egypt has a beautiful divine temple called the Osirian. So the Osirian was built by Seti I, and it is said to come as far back, built in the 3rd century before the Christian era. So 3 BC. Imagine that. So just saying the word Osirian, in Egyptology, the myth of Osiris, the one who was resurrected, the one who was put together again by his sister wife, Isis, Osiris. After she put him back together again, following his brother Seth, cutting him into pieces, they had a union, and they birthed a son named Horus in the multidimensional realms, right? So this is a creation story. But Osiris, yes, transformation, transmutation, meeting the doorway of death. Is your heart as light as a feather for you to pass on to the next realm? It is a vibrational lightness of being. And if not, well, you get to go back on the karmic wheel and have more experiences and expansion until you understand this idea of living lighter from the heart chakra. These were all messages for me. And being raised Catholic, born into a military family, this was not the language I was brought up in. But the power of myth and creation, of Genesis, has been something that I've always been drawn to, and I've painted in my 30 years of painting. Anyway, this above image in the circular form is a recognizable shape of the flower of life. There is this shape inscribed in the Osirian, right, in Abydos, Egypt. This shape is also seen in other locations around the world, but there was something about this idea of Genesis, the flower of life, the vesica, from which all the Platonic solids, all life comes through. This idea of rebirth and rejuvenation is all held in the sonic frequency of the painting that I've created to help support as healing transmitters for anyone viewing this. Okay, so the part of the story of the Osirian was there was a divine mystery school where you were taught how to enter into the quantum fields by sitting and meditating. There was water around the temple, and this idea of moving into other realms through meditation was a very sacred practice. It was possible to go into the past and the future to bring back healing technologies or information that would help your tribe. And so here we are. I'm sitting in this January 13th, 2025, powerful full moon energy of the wolf moon of 2025, howling into the ethers. Why the howl? To find one another. So if you've heard this calling to be here now on this live stream, imagine that. What is it calling you? And where is your pack, your tribe? So when I think about this idea of moving from one state in 3D and experiencing the other dimensions in quantum and the multidimensional beingness of that which we are, this is the joy that I'm bringing art and my spiritual journeys together. So if you understand and have read the work of Freddie Silva, he's an archaeoastronomer. On the cover of one of his most recent books, The Divine Temples, you'll actually see this shape of the hexapenta on the cover. It blew me away, but it also told me there are sacred mysteries still to be remembered in Abydos, Egypt. So if you have a connection to Isis, Osiris, Horus, Sekhmet, all of that are ancient, for me, ancient energies that are still living in the quantum field and ready to be accessed if we choose to focus and drop into our heart chakra. All right, so here we go. Here's the same image that I painted, but very differently. Here I'm calling in more of the cosmic galactic stars within the two pentagons abutted. And I painted in a beautiful, like a divine feminine imagery within a 64-point unity star in the center. This is all language I'm sharing with you, but this imagery reminded me of who else has done this. And so I went back into art history, and I love the work of Hildegard von Bingen. So if you've known the work of Hildegard, this is the high Middle Ages back she was born in 1098. She brought through in Germany, poetry, visual art, music, a different way of being in the world. And here she was. I mean, her structure was supposed to be, here's the box, you're in the, basically nunnery, and she brought through and embraced what I consider some of the most revolutionary art of our known time. So below her picture, I put in a rosette that she painted because it's kind of echoing my love of the divine feminine for the central shape here. And then below that, I added in an archangel, looks like a seraphim, that she also painted. Many of us might know the Red Book of Carl Jung, where he's working with the deep subconscious, the unconscious states. And so his Red Book is a catalog of many of his quantum level drawings of his own experiences. When you study the work of Hildegard von Bingen, who predates him, you're going to see some similar images. It's remarkable that when we tap into the collective unconscious, there are some common themes. There is potent energy waiting for you if you choose to tap into it. All right, so here's another picture real quick. This painting that I created is working with what's called the Fibonacci sequence. It's where you start with 0, and then you move to the 1, and you add the 0 and the 1, you get a 1. You add the 1 and the 1, you get the 2. So 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. And that's about all I can do. But there's a Leonardo of Pisa who actually remembered in his book Liber Abaci from 1202 and brought this information of fractalization of the numeric coding of how to connect to the divine. So Leonardo of Pisa working with the Fibonacci sequence, it's not just oh, isn't that cool? Look, it the mathematical proportions of the micro to the macro and the divine connection from one cosmos to the next. This painting is really a reminder for me to share this idea of how to connect with your angelic realms. So this angel form is in the center of light, the point where the 0 starts. Many of us have heard of 0 point. Well, when you look at this, my heart's desire is that you'll remember that, oh yeah, I am having this earthly experience along with many, many others, whether it's this universe or the multiverse. It's very fascinating. But here's another gentleman, another Leonardo in Italy, but this time in 1400 with the Renaissance of Italy. His name is Leonardo da Vinci. Many of us know him for his great drawings, paintings. He was a botanist. We know him from the Vitruvian Man with the divine human proportions of the circle being the squaring of the circle, right? And the divine proportion of the human body. But what some of us may not know is that he was able to access the quantum field and bring back imagery of flying machines. Imagine that, new technologies of flying machines, helicopters, but even warcraft. He could bring that forward in basically the 1500s, the early 1500s. So if you're listening to this and you consider yourself creative or scientific and have a heart to say, let me just try this. Let me see if I can engage within the quantum field of experience through my heart as a young child of wonder, to do like Leonardo did, consider bringing things back that would help the greater good and the collective. So let's see, I have another slide here. Here's one where I actually was listening a lot to Cryon, channeled by Lee Carroll. And he started doing the Lemurian starseed mothers, galactic mothers of the Pleiades and the Sirians. And there's a mother, a grand star mother named Elili-U. I'm going to say that again, Elili-U. And just saying her name just causes me to go, oh, mother. So I've painted this Elili-U, grand star mother, with a very specific geometry at her heart chakra to remind myself that I am not just physical form, but like this painting, I can transport and call in a 64-point unity star grid for travel, for intentional holding, but with a Liliu to remember that human is not just what I think it is. It involves the seeding of humanity by our starseed mothers who stayed behind, the Pleiadians and the Syrians. So I'm going to switch gears though and show you above, there's a woman named Hilma af Klint, who was born in 1862 and died in 1944. Now, her birth year is 100 years before I was born. So 1862, 1962. It just caught my attention. What she did was she worked with what's called the Five, four other women who would meet devotedly and just create a circle and take turns working to support the connection with other realms. So you could say seance, but it was more like, how do we work together to channel information and bring forward new technologies? Well, come to find out, she was so advanced in what she brought through in her paintings. We're finding out today, according to the Guggenheim Museum in the United States, that her work actually predates what we call the fathers of abstraction. I mean, men painting was acceptable in this time slot. Women were not to be painters. Women had a very specific role, and it did not include painting. But here's Hilma af Klint working with four other women and tuning in to other realms and bringing back the first ever in the Western world abstract art, right? So again, Hildegard von Bingen being outshone by Carl Jung in his Red Book. Hilma af Klint, Swedish, working with women, predating the work of Kandinsky, Piet Mondrian, and Malevich. Imagine that. But when she died, she said to her family, do not show my art until 20 years after I pass. So 40 years after she died, her work was shown to the world. She knew her work was ahead of its time. How would you like to create technology or creativity that is ahead of its time, but that it is also for the greater good? There is a connection that I see between Hildegard von Bingen's work, what she brought through, and later Hilma af Klint. So I'm encouraged by these two women to really consider, well, what might want to come through me, and to hold it lightly, not from my ego of trying to force anything. Anyway, I put this slide together of a painting I created where it felt like toroidal galactic orbs of light were working together and creating a synergistic unity field. And so I have this picture of a Stargate. It's a technology that a gentleman named Prageet Harris with the Stargate Experience Group in Mount Shasta, California. I studied with them, and I've had experiences with the Stargate that I could not explain. And so I want to find out, well, who was that poked my shoulder? I could look at Julia Balaz's Galactic Astrology Calculator and have a better idea of who that was. Because I wanted to find out, like, what's your name? And the power of knowing that star-soul connection just lit me up. But I created this little collage of Lee Carroll channeling through Cryon, saying yes through his heart. Lisa Royal Holt next to Lee Carroll, working with the Prism of Lyra, her quintessential book for anyone interested in galactic heritage. She also offers great classes online. And then the beautiful Richard Rudd with Gene Keys, who was a student of human design download by Ra Uru Hu. These are unique systems that show up when the collective is ready. And so, like, it doesn't, it happens in these spiritual downloads, but if it's something that you're open to, you can almost set the table and the environment and permission to do this, okay? And of course, underneath Richard Rudd is beautiful Pam Gregory, astrologer, who to me feels like she's channeling when she's talking to us. She has the knowledge, but in her YouTube channel, it just feels like in her own unique laughter and loving way, she can bring forth information or have ahas while she's filming in YouTube. And then lastly, I have a picture of astrologer Bernadette Brady. Bernadette she has a star school. She works with heliacal rising and heliacal setting stars. So she's looking from a visual astrology perspective to how to navigate with the birth date and the birth moment. Who was there to help you from the ancestors? Who was there to help you from the immortal gods from heaven? And so when you find out the heliacal rising and setting stars that you were born into, it might explain a lot of why life is the way it is for you and why the journey was the way it was. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I realized that I have Alphard in the constellation of the Great Snake, so Hydra, the water snake, this huge ancient star constellation is part of my heritage. The gift of the stars from my ancestors was Alphard. But the gift, according to Bernadette Brady, on what the gods gave me at the moment of my birth, it's from a different constellation. It's the swan of Cygnus. And from her beautiful star, it really is a shaman star reflecting this idea of connection to Isis. So when I found that out, it made sense. Why was I so fascinated with the Osirian and Osiris and this idea of rejuvenation and restoration and resurrection? So it's just kind of an interesting. So that's Bernadette Brady. And of course, this whole quantum summit, Julia Balaz, her picture is added right in here etherically. Just so thankful that she offers teachings and classes online and a wonderful community to be part of if you choose to become part of the Galactic Astrology 101 online class or into the practitioner certification course. Okay, let's see. Next, I wanted to just tell you, if painting with the stars and igniting your creativity is important for you in 2025, if you're feeling like, yeah, I know it's going to be turbulent and I want to just find out who's there to help me, wanted to show you this particular painting to remind you that you are not alone. And so this idea of those two pentas forming five-pointed stars that go in and come out like the Fibonacci sequence, holding this shape of support, and the red energy of life, the blood of life, is available to you. So my free gift in going forward, if you're interested in some of this and knowing more about your cosmic portrait, I'm happy to meet you. Well, at least I'm not sure how many people I can invite, but the first 22 to send me an email, let's say, let's meet in Zoom on the Lunar New Year of the Wood Snake on January 29th at 10 a.m. So I'm gonna probably only receive email addresses if you get to me before January 25th. So if it looks interesting, I'm putting my email. You'll see right below. Just send me your email and I'll send you a Zoom link if you're one of the first 22 to hop in. And yeah, the year of the wood snake. So we talked about the wolf full moon, whereas my tribe, for me, I'm embracing the wood snake as, yes, shedding my skin, but it also echoes this idea of the tree of life with the snake, the caduceus, the divine feminine magic, so it's the wooden snake connecting us to earth and the heavens, the branches and the foliage of the tree with Mother Earth. Doesn't it remind you of the snake in the Garden of Eden? I think it's time to reframe that story and embrace it as, some people see the snake as Lilith, Adam's first wife. She didn't work out because she refused to be named by Adam, to be submissive. This is a powerful archetypal metaphor for if you're ready to redefine who you are and not be named by your culture or your family of origin, if you want to remember who you truly are, come meet me in Zoom and we'll celebrate the year of the wood snake. And I'll help you get started to finding out what your galactic soul connections are. Like, who are your family? Like, here's 4 of my particular star family members: Sirius A, Achernar, Deneb Adige, and Orion's Nebula. I can get you started, okay? If there's 22 of you and you send me your email, I'll ask you for your natal information, date, time, and location. I can get an advanced look at your star family and help guide you to understand who do you call in 2025 when you're really under the wave, or who do you call in to co-create with? So it's this choice point moment, I think, in 2025 where something is being completed. 2025 equals 9. And Pam Gregory reminds us it's a 9-year numerologically. So when you complete your previous self, would you like to know how to launch and get support from your galactic star family members? And so I could read to you a little bit about each of my stars, but I want to keep time available for any questions that you want to put into the chat. And if my power goes out, perhaps I'll find a way to get into the chat line. But again, I'm pre-recording this in the event that our power grid goes out here in California due to the incredible fires happening in our local area. So let me end by sharing this idea of, yeah, let's go ahead and ignite our creativity with galactic engagement. Let's see. So yeah, so whatever you choose to do in 2025, my 3 bullet points would be: you're way more than you can imagine that you are. When you find out what you are, multidimensionally speaking, then you can understand, well, who's there to help me? And instead of moving into fear of, let's say, some of the conspiracy theories of harm by galactic, it's really star family, where each of us has chosen to play either the good guy or the bad guy. But as Cryon says, oh dear one, when will you stop playing this idea of cowboys and Indians? Is it time now to step into more of the fuller you and knowing who and what you are? And I really, the third thing I would say is invite in your fullness, whether it's through specific creativity or through just sharing and listening to more of these live streams. You're not alone. You have support, and we're here to help guide you if you think it's time. So you are not alone. You have support, and there's a way to find out what your galactic Akashic records could include when we look at the calculator that Julia Balaz and Hector have created. Thank you so much. I hope you'll join me on the Ascension Playground and YouTube if you'd also like to know a little bit more about some of the teachings of the stars. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful 2025.